Good evening and welcome to CYC News for today, the 20th of December 2015 AD and the 10th of Kiyah 1732 AM. I'm Angie Victor. In today's headlines, Pope Tawadros receives the Maronite Patriarch of Antioch from Lebanon. The Coptic Church celebrates in Holland. Putin pours fresh scorn on Turkey for downing Russian jet. The migrant crisis dominates as the EU holds its final summit of 2015. Amnesty warns against brutal crackdown on protesters in Ethiopia. The African Union says it won't allow genocide. And 2016 is very likely to be the warmest year on record. To the Coptic Orthodox Church in Cairo, where His Holiness Pope Tawadros has received Cardinal Bishara El-Rai, Maronite Patriarch of Antioch from Lebanon, in his visit to the Coptic Church. Cardinal Bishara visited St. Bishoy Monastery in Wadi el-Natrun, where the shrine of departed Pope Shenouda was. And in Holland, His Grace Bishop Arseni has inaugurated the extension of St. Mark's Coptic Orthodox Church in a public celebration, with the presence of Mr. El Sayed Tahir, Egyptian ambassador in Lahai. His Holiness Pope Tawadros laid the cornerstone for the church in June 2015, and it serves a huge number of Christian families, as it's considered the second largest Coptic church in Holland. Now to the US presidential election scene, as the CNN Republican debate last Tuesday in Las Vegas was the last chance for candidates in 2015 to shine. It was a crucial clash before the race goes into the deep freeze over Christmas and New Year holidays. It was no surprise that Tuesday night's Republican debate was focused almost entirely on foreign policy and US national security policy, coming just over a week after the shootings in San Bernardino and a month after the Paris attacks. According to CNN, Rubio and Cruz clashed on immigration, data sweeps by intelligence agencies, and regime change in the Middle East. But Rubio stood his ground when he skewered Cruz on his exact position on offering a path to legal status for illegal immigrants during a congressional battle on the issue in 2013. Rubio has consistently argued that Cruz did support such a move, a change that could weaken the Texas senator among core conservatives who see such support as amnesty. Mr. Trump made international headlines with his call to close the US border to all Muslim immigrants and visitors. Although the subject was raised early on, and Mr. Trump stood by his position, it received only tepid condemnation. Mr. Bush was the only candidate who tried a head-on charge against Mr. Trump, saying, "You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency." Mr. Bush retorted, "Leadership is not about attacking people and disparaging people." CYC presents you the quick bio of each candidate according to ABC News, starting with the Republican candidates. Jeb Bush, born in 1953, former governor of Florida. He also had a hand in over 20 businesses and foundations, started an education nonprofit called Foundation for Florida's Future, and his own consulting firm, Jeb Bush and Associates. Ben Carson, born in 1951, co-founder of the Carson Scholars Fund. Along with his wife, he runs the philanthropic organization that awards 1,000 college scholarships to 4th through 11th graders. A neurosurgeon. As chief of pediatric neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins, Carson was the first doctor to successfully separate conjoined twins fused at their head in 1987. Chris Christie, born in 1962, governor of New Jersey. He gained a reputation as an aggressive, anti-corruption prosecutor. Ted Cruz, born in 1970, U.S. Senator from Texas. Cruz sits on several committees, including Armed Services, Commerce, Science and Transportation, and Judiciary. Carly Fiorina, born in 1954, former CEO of Hewlett-Packard, advisor to John McCain's 2008 presidential campaign. Donald Trump, born in 1946, real estate mogul and former reality television star. Jim Gilmore, born in 1949, former governor of Virginia, President and CEO of the Free Congress Foundation. Lindsey Graham, born in 1955, U.S. Senator from South Carolina. He serves on several committees including Appropriations, Armed Services, Budget, and Judiciary. Mike Huckabee, born in 1955, former governor of Arkansas. He was a practicing Southern Baptist minister for 12 years. He is also the author of several books, including his latest, God, Guns, Grits, and Gravy, published in early 2015. Marco Rubio, born in 1971, U.S. Senator from Florida, currently serves on several committees, including Intelligence, Foreign Relations, and Small Business. John Kasich, born in 1952, Governor of Ohio, former Fox News host. George Pataki, born in 1945, former Governor of New York. Pataki served 3 times, including during the September 11 terrorist attacks. Rand Paul, born in 1963, U.S. Senator from Kentucky. Paul practiced ophthalmology for 20 years before running for Senate. Rick Santorum, born in 1958, former U.S. Senator from Pennsylvania. He served at the head of Ecolite, a Christian film company. And now to the Democrat candidates. Hillary Clinton, born in 1947, former Secretary of State, 2-term U.S. Senator, 2008 presidential candidate, and of course, former First Lady. Martin O'Malley, born in 1963, former Governor of Maryland and Mayor of Baltimore. He was inducted into the Irish American Hall of Fame. Bernie Sanders, born in 1941, independent U.S. Senator from Vermont. Sanders sits on several committees including Environment and Public Works, Energy and Natural Resources, Budget, and Veteran Affairs. To Russia, where Russian President Vladimir Putin has used crude language in a furious new attack on Turkey over the shooting down of a Russian combat jet last month. Mr. Putin is now into his 3rd term as president since 2000, battling an economic crisis. Critics say civil liberties have been steadily eroded under his rule, but he predicted economic growth in Russia in the new year of 0.7%, rising to 1.9% in 2017 and 2.4% in 2018, based on oil at $50 a barrel. Putin remains one of the world's most recognizable politicians and has topped the list of the world's most powerful people, compiled by Forbes magazine for the 3rd year running. Finance ministers from the 15 nations on the UN Security Council are expected to adopt a resolution aimed at starving the so-called Islamic State of funds. The draft resolution is based on one that was first passed in 1999 to target the rival jihadist group Al-Qaeda. It urges countries to move vigorously and decisively to cut the flow of funds to IS, such as by preventing its smuggling of oil and antiquities. The militant group is widely believed to be the world's wealthiest. A recent study estimated that its monthly revenue was $80 million. EU leaders are gathering in Brussels for an end-of-year summit focused on tackling Europe's migrant crisis. German Chancellor Angela Merkel and leaders from 7 other EU nations held a special meeting with Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu earlier. One proposal being considered is for the EU to resettle Syrian refugees directly from camps in Turkey, but some countries oppose this. Other topics include plans for an EU border force and the UK reform agenda. More than 900,000 people have arrived in Europe this year, prompting some states to build fences and introduce border controls in defiance of the EU's border-free Schengen area. The Paris attacks in November have also heightened security concerns across the bloc. Anti-terror rhetoric by Ethiopia's government could escalate into a brutal crackdown on protesters, human rights group Amnesty International has warned. A plan to expand the capital's administrative control into the Oromia region has sparked deadly protests. The government has accused Oromo protesters of links with terror groups and trying to start a revolution. Amnesty says the claims aim to justify repression of those protesting against feared land seizures. Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn said on state television on Wednesday evening the government knows that destructive forces are masterminding the violence from the front and from behind. He added that the government will take merciless, legitimate action against any force bent on destabilizing the area. The African Union, discussing the situation in Burundi, says Africa will not allow another genocide to take place on its soil. The UN said it would send a fact-finding mission to Burundi amid fears that violence could spiral into civil war and possible ethnic conflict. Last Friday, 87 people were killed in clashes in the capital, Bujumbura. Unrest began in April when President Pierre Nkurunziza announced he would seek a third term in office. He survived a coup attempt in May and secured a third term in disputed elections in July. Although international diplomats have warned about a possible return of genocide in Burundi, neither the government nor the opposition have used ethnicity in their public statements, although each accuses the other of doing so. Libya's rival politicians have signed a UN-brokered deal to form a unity government in a nation split by more than 4 years of conflict. UN envoy Martin Kobler described the deal as historic, saying Libya had turned a page in efforts to achieve reconciliation and stability. However, the heads of the rival parliaments failed to sign the deal because of major disagreements. Armed groups which control much of Libya were not part of the talks. Libya has been in chaos since the 2011 overthrow of long-serving ruler Muammar Gaddafi by NATO-backed forces. It has two rival governments, one based in the main city, Tripoli, and the other about 1,000 kilometers away in the port city of Tobruk. Mexican officials have confirmed that 2 bodies found in a burnt-out camper van in northwestern Sinaloa state last month are those of Australian surfers Dean Lucas and Adam Coleman. The two 33-year-olds were last seen alive on the night of 20 November in the town of Topobolampo. They were planning to travel to the city of Guadalajara when they disappeared. Mexican police have arrested 3 men in connection with their murder. Police officials said the 3 confessed to killing the 2 surfers when they fought back during an attempted robbery. 2 more suspects are still at large. Already a successful pharmacist in Egypt, Adil Malik moved his family from Cairo to Allentown, Pennsylvania in 1993 in hopes of a better life and education for his children. Malik and his wife opened a health food restaurant that year, and 5 years later a grocery store that became a hit in the neighborhood. Tragedy struck 6 months after the Apotheca store on Walnut Street, when the beloved grocer was gunned down in a failed robbery attempt. In the days and months following the killing of the 59-year-old grocery store owner on July 22, 1998, Allentown police beefed up patrols, and the neighborhood held vigils asking for peace and information that would lead to justice. Within years, the leads on the crime went quiet, and Malik's name was just recently added to the city's cold case list, requesting the public's help in solving it. So it was quite the shock for Abdul Malik, the victim's brother, to learn that an arrest was made on Wednesday. John M. Edinger, a 44-year-old Emmaus man, recently busted for having 7 bags of heroin on him, was brought in for questioning on Wednesday and admitted to being in Malik's store in 1998 and shooting him, court records show. Edinger, of the 900 block of Glenwood Street, was charged later in the day with homicide and sent to Lehigh County Jail without bail. At the time of the killing, witnesses said they saw a man running from the store at 1341 Union Street, but police never got a clear description of him. According to Morning Call archives, Malik didn't have surveillance in his store at the time of the killing, which was years before the city installed street cameras. Martin said the investigation came together rapidly, culminating in Wednesday's meeting with the suspect. Malik was known in the community for his kindness, often giving away candy to neighborhood children and helping out customers who came up short on their grocery totals. He was also known as a religious man and could often be seen reading the Bible. Malik was a pharmacist for 3 decades in Egypt before moving to Lehigh Valley, according to Abdul Malik, who moved to the area 6 months before his older brother. Malik needed more training to continue practicing locally, so he opened a restaurant in Allentown that he named after his wife and later the convenience store. To economics now. European shares have surged after the US Central Bank increased interest rates for the first time since 2006. The UK's FTSE 100 index closed 0.7% higher, while the main share indexes in France and Germany saw much bigger increases. The dollar also rallied against other currencies after the US Federal Reserve increased the range for its benchmark rate to between 0.25 and 0.5%. But after a bright start, Wall Street lost ground in afternoon trading. The Federal Reserve said the rise was part of a gradual process to get rates back to normal after years of being near zero. In Facebook's first foray into the transportation business, the firm has agreed to work with Uber to allow users to hail Uber cabs directly from the Messenger app. The new service means Messenger users will be able to ask for an Uber vehicle without leaving the Facebook software. Users will not need to download the Uber app separately. Uber on Messenger began in parts of the US this week, the two firms said. The companies announced that their new venture via separate blogs. Facebook has some 1.5 billion users globally, and Uber is the world's biggest driver-hailing app in terms of financing. A new global temperature forecast from the UK's Met Office says that 2016 is likely to be even warmer than 2015. The year has already been provisionally declared the warmest on record thanks to a combination of global warming and a strong El Niño. The Met Office believes that temperatures in 2016 could be 1.1 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Last year, the forecast for 2015 predicted a central estimate of 0.64 above the average. Observational data from January to October this year shows the global mean temperature so far this year is running at 0.72 above 1961 to 1990. Cancer is overwhelmingly a result of environmental factors and not largely down to bad luck, a study suggests. Earlier this year, researchers sparked a debate after suggesting 2/3 of cancer types were down to luck rather than factors such as smoking. The new study in the journal Nature used 4 approaches to conclude only 10 to 30% of cancers were down to the way the body naturally functions, or luck. Experts said the analysis was pretty convincing. Cancer is caused by one of the body's own stem cells going rogue and dividing out of control. That can be caused either by intrinsic factors that are part of the innate way the body operates, such as the risk of mutations occurring every time a cell divides, or extrinsic factors such as smoking, UV radiation, and many others that have not been identified. And that's all for CYC News for today. Stay tuned for more Christian content on CYC. I'm Angie, and from the CYC studios in Sydney, Australia, good night and God bless.